It was just another evening, the kind where the sun dips low and paints the sky in shades of orange and pink. I was driving home from work, tired but content, thinking about dinner and maybe catching up on my favorite show. But life has a way of throwing curveballs when you least expect it. I noticed the flashing lights in my rearview mirror almost immediately. My heart sank. I wasn't speeding, hadn't run any lights, hadn't done anything wrong. I pulled over, my hands gripping the steering wheel a little tighter than usual. The officer approached my window, his face stern, his tone clipped. "License and registration, ma'am," he said, his voice leaving no room for questions. I handed them over, my mind racing. "Is there a problem, officer?" I asked, trying to keep my voice steady. He didn't answer right away, just studied my documents like they held some secret. "Step out of the car, please," he finally said. My stomach churned. "Why? What did I do?" "Just step out of the car," he repeated, his tone firmer this time. I did as I was told, my legs feeling like jelly. I stood there on the side of the road, the cool evening air doing little to calm my nerves. Another officer joined him, and they started talking in low voices, glancing at me every so often. I felt exposed, vulnerable, like I'd done something terribly wrong even though I knew I hadn't. That's when I saw him. My husband, Mark. He'd been driving behind me, just a few minutes later, as he often did when we both got off work around the same time. He pulled over behind the police car and stepped out, his badge glinting on his belt. My heart leapt. Mark was a detective, and while he wasn't in uniform, that badge carried weight. "What's going on here?" Mark asked, his voice calm but firm as he approached the officers. The two cops exchanged a look, their confidence wavering. "We stopped your wife for a routine check," one of them said, though his tone had lost its edge. Mark's eyes narrowed. "A routine check? For what? She wasn't speeding, wasn't swerving. What's the probable cause?" The officers hesitated. They didn't have an answer, and it showed. Mark's presence changed everything. He wasn't just my husband in that moment. He was one of them, and they knew they'd overstepped. "This isn't how we do our jobs," Mark said, his voice low but filled with authority. "You don't pull someone over without a reason. You don't make them feel like they've done something wrong when they haven't." The officers mumbled something about a misunderstanding and handed back my license and registration. Mark didn't let it go, though. He made it clear that this wasn't okay, that they needed to do better. And then, just like that, it was over. The officers got back in their car and drove off, leaving us standing there on the side of the road. I broke down then, the weight of it all hitting me. Mark pulled me into his arms, holding me tight. "It's okay," he whispered. "You're okay." But I wasn't okay. Not really. I couldn't shake the feeling of how powerless I'd felt, how small, and I couldn't stop thinking about what might have happened if Mark hadn't shown up. Would they have let me go? Or would it have escalated into something worse? We drove home in silence, Mark's hand resting on mine the whole way. That night, as we sat on the couch, I couldn't stop the tears. Mark held me, letting me cry, letting me feel everything I needed to feel. "I'm sorry you went through that," he said softly. "No one should have to," I nodded, leaning into him. I don't understand why they did that. Why me?" Mark sighed, his arm tightening around me. "I don't know, honey, but I do know this. You didn't deserve it. And I'll always be here to make sure you're safe." In that moment, I felt a mix of emotions: relief, anger, sadness, but also gratitude. Gratitude for Mark, for his strength, for his unwavering support, and gratitude for the reminder that even in moments of fear and uncertainty, I wasn't alone. Life can be unpredictable, and sometimes it feels like the world is against you. But having someone by your side, someone who'll stand up for you no matter what, makes all the difference. That night, as I fell asleep in Mark's arms, I knew I'd be okay. Because no matter what happened, we'd face it together. Hey everyone, if this story moved you, if it made you think, or if it reminded you why we need to keep having these conversations, please take a moment to like this video. It really helps spread awareness. I'd love to hear your thoughts, so drop a comment below. Have you ever witnessed or experienced something like this? Let's talk about it. And if you believe stories like this deserve to be told, make sure to subscribe to the channel. We're here to share real, powerful stories that need to be heard. Lastly, share this with your friends and family. The more people who see this, the the more we can bring awareness and change. Thank you for watching and being part of this journey. Let's keep pushing forward, together.